On the morning of April 16, 1947, the boomtown port of Texas City was already hard at work. Along the industrial pier, a line of heavy cargo ships sat peacefully docked in the quiet spring weather. One of those vessels was the French freighter Grandcamp. Hidden deep within its steel hull, the ship was harboring a catastrophic threat. The locals going about their daily routines had no way of knowing that this routine morning would soon become the deadliest industrial disaster in American history. In less than 2 hours, the entire industrial waterfront would be leveled. The city was moving through its final morning of peace. Following the Second World War, the United States initiated a massive effort to convert surplus military explosives into agricultural fertilizer, shipping it overseas to revitalize the war-ravaged farms of Europe. To meet this global demand, longshoremen in Texas City had spent the previous days loading 2,300 tons of fertilizer-grade ammonium nitrate into the holds of the Grandcamp. This animated diagram breaks down the molecular structure of ammonium nitrate. It is a highly unstable, energetic oxidizer. Because it contains both a reducing agent and an oxidizing agent, the compound generates its own oxygen upon thermal decomposition. It does not need atmospheric air to burn. To prevent the fertilizer from clumping during transport, the manufacturers coated the chemical in a mixture of paraffin wax and rosin. They had bonded a combustible carbon fuel directly to the surface of a potent oxidizer. Finally, they packaged this mixture into heavy paper sacks. By confining a fuel and an oxidizer together inside a combustible container, the manufacturing process created a pre-mixed, tactical yield blasting agent. On the docks, safety protocols were notoriously lax. Workers regularly ignored French no-smoking signs. During the loading process, a discarded cigarette tumbled into the cargo hold, landing among loose fertilizer pellets and torn paper sacks. Industrial profit margins and a lack of hazardous material oversight turned a humanitarian relief vessel into a 2-kiloton explosive. It was waiting for a single spark. At 8 in the morning, dock workers spotted a wisp of smoke creeping up from Hold 4. The crew attempted to douse the area with fire extinguishers and a gallon jug of water. When that failed, the captain refused to let the longshoremen use the ship's fire hoses, prioritizing the preservation of his valuable cargo over the safety of the port. Instead, the captain issued an alternative order. He instructed the crew to seal the cargo hatches completely and pump steam into the hold, hoping to smother the flames without ruining the fertilizer. This cross-section illustrates the fatal error. Thousands of fertilizer bags were sealed off, trapping steam with the burning cargo. Because ammonium nitrate provides its own oxygen, the steam became a pressure cooker, feeding the reaction and causing temperature and pressure to spike exponentially. The exact firefighting tactic intended to save the ship actively engineered its detonation. The crew had locked a runaway chemical reaction inside a heavy steel vault. Down at the waterline, the steel hull was blistering. The harbor water was violently boiling and vaporizing as it washed against the scorching metal. As the steam pressure grew, the cargo hatches blew open. A vibrant plume of orange and purple smoke began venting from the bulging deck, the deadly chemical signature of nitrogen dioxide fumes. The unusual plume drew hundreds of families and schoolchildren down to the shoreline. Unaware of the danger, they gathered at the water's edge to watch the spectacle. While the crowd watched from the pier, 27 members of the Texas City Volunteer Fire Department were standing directly on top of the swelling hull, attempting to lay down hose lines. Human curiosity had brought an entire community into the direct line of fire. They were oblivious to the lethal physics ticking down beneath their feet. At 9:12 a.m., the combination of heat and pressure reached the explosive threshold. The Grandcamp detonated. In a fraction of a second, the ship, the cargo, and the 27 volunteer firefighters were vaporized. The sheer kinetic force of the initial blast triggered a 15-foot tidal wave that crashed over the docks. The shockwave was so powerful it swatted 2 sightseeing airplanes directly out of the sky. Thousands of tons of supersonic steel shrapnel tore through the surrounding area. The fragments shredded the nearby Monsanto chemical plant, flattening the massive facility and igniting secondary infernos across the port. An unheeded chemical warning had just obliterated the industrial heart of a thriving American city. As night fell, the horror of the aftermath continued. The adjacent freighter High Flyer, also packed with hundreds of tons of ammonium nitrate, caught fire amid the blazing ruins of the dock. Despite desperate efforts to tow it out to sea, the High Flyer suffered the exact same fate, detonating 15 hours later in the dark and destroying what little remained of the port infrastructure. When the fires were finally extinguished, 581 people were dead. It remains the deadliest industrial accident in United States history. The devastation led to the creation of modern chemical storage standards and triggered the first mass tort against the United States government. The blast was so immense that the Grandcamp's 1.5-ton anchor was hurled 2 miles inland, permanently embedding itself into the Texas soil. That anchor remains there today. It sits as a heavy, silent monument to the day a town learned that the volatile laws of chemistry cannot be negotiated with or ignored.